Hello, and welcome to the Online Course Creator Show. This is episode 56. I'm Lou Blakely, your host, and also a launch strategist and marketing coach who helps entrepreneurs get out there and launch and grow their online courses. And today I have a very special guest expert on, Sally Prosser, and we're going to be talking all about how to speak up for your business. Now, Sally Prosser is a voice and public speaking coach. She believes that our voice is the organ of our soul, and she's all about finding your unique voice and speaking from the heart. Now, Sally seriously has a lot of experience here to back this up. So over the last 20 years, she's helped hundreds of professionals speak with more confidence, had a career as a TV reporter, and built a community of over 300,000 on TikTok. She's a TEDx Speaker Coach. She loves to use a hairbrush as a microphone, and in 2020 she was named as the Young Entrepreneur of the Year for PR and Media in Queensland here in Australia. So Sally is your one-stop shop for everything speaking, from gaining the confidence to put yourself out there to producing a strong voice, to crafting speeches for the stage and designing strategy to get your spoken message heard. Now, I asked Sally to come on today because not only does she know what she's talking about in this space, but she is also a course creator herself. She actually, when I first met Sally, she became a client not that long after meeting her actually. So I have helped her in the past with some of her one of her launches. And I'm also a member of her membership, Soul Speakers, which is a place where Sally shares her amazing knowledge, expertise, and experience on speaking. But not only that, I asked her to be on because honestly, I think this business model, when you're creating online courses, showing up and using your voice is so powerful, and it can really be the thing that makes the biggest difference. So if you're someone that's struggling to show up on social media, that's struggling to share your voice or share your opinions, then this is definitely a must-listen episode. I'm so glad you have tuned in today, and I hope you really enjoy this episode. Welcome to this episode of the Online Course Creator Show. I am very happy to have Sally Prosser here with me today. Thanks so much for joining us, Sally.
Lou, so great to be here.
Yeah, so just to kick things off, what's your favorite thing about being a course creator?
Oh, I would say my favorite thing about being a course creator is the creativity. You know, there is no real playbook. You can decide what's in the curriculum. What do you want to put in it? How do you want to interact with your community? And so many of my online courses have literally just come to me while having a shower. I was just like, yep, it's going to be this long, this module, and then you can go and create it. So it's such a great way to harness your creativity and keep adapting to what people are looking for as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So you're here today to talk all about speaking up for your business as an online course creator. So you are a speaking coach. I'd love to hear your story about how you got into this area and why you're so passionate about it.
Yes, I am so passionate about it. I believe, your voice is such a great asset in your business. It's one of the things that can't be outsourced or copied or chat GPT'd, even though they talk about voice cloning and things like that. Really, your human voice is you. And so when you're using it to promote your business, that's when you can create that real connection with people. And for me, my background has always been something to do with voice. So I remember when I was a kid, I got a microphone from Santa. That's the only thing I wanted. And the first thing I did was say a thank you speech to Santa in front of my family with the microphone I got. So I did
Classic.
So I did a lot of speaking, and then I was a television and radio news reporter. Then I was a company spokesperson, and I've used my voice throughout my career. I know the importance of being able to speak with confidence, but then it goes even deeper because I found myself in a pretty not so great relationship where I'd lost my voice. So it was this irony of, speaking on national television by day and then feeling like a silenced girlfriend by night. I learned there was a big difference Yeah, a big difference between speaking with confidence and speaking your truth and really treating your voice as that organ of your soul. And I know that might sound quite deep for online course creators, but when you can tap into that real reason you have your voice and that you're using it as this channel to talk about what you know and love, which is where your course is coming from, then you can really unlock a whole nother level of not just enjoyment with speaking, but connection with it too.
I love that, because everyone that creates a course, they have a real driver behind like actually choosing the business model. And usually it is about having that message, and that, from my experience, course creators want to create a real impact and create some kind of change. So having the why, I guess, behind it and using your voice as the vehicle to get it out there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's why I started my business, because sure, being able to speak with confidence and know all of the structures and the breathing and all of that stuff with voice, the gestures, is great. Yet it's nothing without that true connection to self. And so that's why when I discovered that connection to self, I thought I need to teach other people about this, because it doesn't matter whether you're introverted or extroverted. It doesn't matter whether you love social media or, don't love it so much. We can always connect inward with our voice and use it wherever it is that we want to be heard.
So you said you're a news reporter. Did you do speech and language type stuff as well?
Yeah, I was like a speech and drama kid. So I grew up doing a Stedfords and, poetry on stage. And I got my licentiate diploma in speech and drama, which is like above a speech and drama teaching qualification. It's like an examiner qualification. And when I was 16, I ran a speech and drama studio in the front room of my parents' house. So, poor dad, he'd get kicked out of his office of an afternoon. And then I'd have little kids coming for lessons. So my youngest was 4, the oldest was about my age, leaving school. And that's where all of the core training came from. And then I wanted to use my voice and I went into radio. But as I quickly discovered, you can't read the news like you're doing a Shakespearean monologue. I remember the first shift that I did, I was like, "Good morning, it's 5:30. I'm Sally Prosser." And the news director was like, "Sal, like seriously, you got to tone that down. Like people are just like getting their kids off to school. They're just driving. Like you got to use it differently." And that's when I really learned that our voice can be changed and we can adapt it to the scenario. And he said one thing that really stuck with me. He said, "Don't try to do a voice, be a voice." And at first I was like, what the hell? Like, don't try to do a voice, be a voice. But it goes back to what I was speaking about earlier, in the sense of it's not something that we kind of reach outward for. We reach inward for it. And, creating courses, I remember the first one I did, I used the auto cue. So I got a professional cameraman and I was in my living room. You've been here, downstairs. And it was very proper. Like every time I made any kind of mistake, it was edited out and it looked amazing. Then I discovered that it's a much better connection when I was just filming freely. And if I did make a stumble or something like that, it really didn't matter, because it was so much more important to have that fluency. So I took my own advice from all those years ago and I was like, oh God, I'm doing that thing again. I'm trying to do a voice rather than being a voice. And so it's a little mantra that I always give myself.
Yeah, that's so interesting actually, because I think one of the first times I met you, actually I'd lived in Brisbane for, I don't know, like 6 months to a year or something. And I remember asking you, I need help with my voice because my accent, no one understands it here in Australia. And you just were like, who cares? Just talk. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right. And from then on, I've always just been like, well, I just have to be myself, really.
Oh, 100%. And our accent is such a part of who we are. It's part of our identity. It's part of our story. It's something to be embraced. On the odd occasion, I get a lot of people say, "Oh, Sal, can you help me with my accent?" Like, well, God, the last thing I want to do is turn you into a bogan Queenslander with an accent like us. And if you're listening from overseas, you'll find this quite hilarious. But there was a Scottish guy I worked with, and instead of saying shower, he'd say sure. So it was really hard to understand, and his team were struggling to understand him, and he was doing things like safety briefings, So in that case, I was like, well, look, we're just going to have to, check a couple of those vowels to make sure people understand what it is that we're saying. But beyond that, accents are nothing to worry about.
Yeah, that's so true. When I was younger, I did a few seasons snowboard instructing in the States, and then I ended up with a summer job there waitressing in a Mexican restaurant, and I had to seriously change some of the things that I said because American people could not understand me. When I said, "Do you want some water?" They were like, What?
It was like when I was working in a bar in the
saying,
UK.
"Would you like some water?"
Water. Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I was in the UK, I worked at a Aussie pub called The Walkabout. And when I first started there, I studied in Lancaster for a year, and the guys would come into the pub and they'd say, "Oliver Bud." I could not work out what the hell they were saying, but they were saying, "I'll have a bud," meaning a Budweiser. So it was the accent, but also the terminology, and it's not something that's very commonly drunk over here. So, yeah, there's so many stories about these lost in translation things, but they all add to the richness of experience. Like another one, I work with a lot of people from all over the world, including the States, and I often use the term "stuff it up." Right? So when you're speaking, you don't want to stuff it up. And they were like, "Oh no, Sal, do you have a cold? Have you got some nasal congestion?" And they thought that I was my face was stuffed up rather than messing up,
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. But then also on the flip side, the accent's so powerful as well, because one of the seasons when I was snowboard instructing, I actually was one of the most popular instructors because people kept requesting me. And it was I think it was a big part due to the accent. You go to the snow, you get a foreigner to teach you how to ski or snowboard, so it can really play to your advantage. Yeah, and I think online as well, if we're speaking to a global audience, which we are as soon as we turn on go live or whatever, we are talking to a global audience. So we really just have to be ourselves.
Yeah, so it's watching that terminology. However, often people know what we mean anyway, and they can find it quite endearing. So, leaning into yourself. I was talking to somebody this morning about being your weird and wonderful self. And in online course creation, when there's so much out there and there's so many people who can teach the stuff, most things can be Googled, right? So as a course creator, we want to make our content be so much ours so that it can't be picked up and voiced by someone else. So this is a bit of a test, I say, when you're putting out any marketing or courses. Can that script actually be done by someone else and still make sense? And the answer should be no. Your content should only make sense if it's done by you.
Yeah, and that's where it's so powerful with your story and using your voice to share that story. So today we're talking all about how to speak up for your business. And there's no doubt about it. A course creation business, you do have to be the one at the forefront sharing your story, putting your face and your voice to your business. So what do you recommend to someone who is maybe so keen to have this kind of business, but they're just struggling a little bit to step into that powerful position of speaking up for themselves and using their voice?
Well, start small. So you might want to not do a big live on Instagram. However, you might put a story out there to start with. You might even just make videos in your camera roll that never get posted. So it's not about going from zero to hero. Just start pushing it a little bit. Maybe instead of launching your own podcast, you be a guest on some other people's podcasts. Small stories. Just think of what are all these different ways that you can use your voice. And our voice can be used from social media videos to podcasts to speaking on panels, at events, webinars. There's so many different ways on stage and online that we can use our voice. So it's working out what are you drawn to, and then where's that next small step you can take to do it. So that's the first practical thing. And then alongside that, it's the story. It's a story that's going on in your mind. So this morning I was speaking with somebody who said, "Oh, Sal, I just hate social media." I really hate social media. I don't want to be on there. And it's well, but I feel like I have to. I have a business, so I have to be on there. And this kind of relationship is not going to be fun. It's going to make social media feel like that annoying friend that's dragging you to the party that you don't want to go to. Whereas if you reframe it to being the sovereign of your socials. That's what I like to say. Like, I'm the sovereign of my socials. And it's this incredible opportunity that we get to be able to reach so many people. You know, Wi-Fi was invented in 1997. Right, 1997. So in 1996, if you said to somebody, oh my gosh, I really don't want to show up on TikTok or Instagram, and, you know, I'm nervous because I've been on this podcast and, you know, I've got my Kajabi and my Kartra and all this, they'd be like, what the hell? Like, are you actually saying that you can just look into your phone and film a video and then you can send it out to thousands of people around the world and it's pretty much free? You know, they would just, their mind would be blown. So it's such a great opportunity that we live in this day and age that we can reach so many people, and it's such an opportunity. So I would say stop seeing it as the enemy and start seeing it as the friend that enables you to amplify your voice. So if you enjoy having a one-on-one conversation with someone and you enjoy having a one-to-small group, then social media is just like that, but on steroids.
So do you recommend that if people are shying away from it to just imagine that they are talking to one person?
Yeah, I think that definitely helps. Imagine you're talking to one person and know that, like, social media is like your house. I say it's like hosting a house party, right? So when you put out some content, it's like putting out an invitation. You're putting out a party invitation and then people come to your door. So some of the nice comments and people engaging, it's like, yeah, hey, come on in. And then you've got to talk back to that person because it'd be rude not to, because they've come to your house for a party. So when people don't respond to comments, that's what it's like. It's like someone turning up and you're not greeting them. Then you might get some haters or some annoying people and you can decide to kick them out or you can decide to ignore them. And then you can decide when the party's over. So you want to send your next invitation. So I think that's a really helpful metaphor when it comes to marketing, because it really puts you in control. You know, I have these mantras. I'm the sovereign of my socials. I'm the queen of the castle. I'm in charge of the day, because as soon as that power imbalance shifts and you're like, oh, it's just this thing I have to do, that's when it all goes downhill.
Right. Yeah. So it's about creating a like positive relationship with what you even think of social media and its role in your business to start off with.
Yeah.
So your work includes like a big chunk of like the mindset side of things, as well as the practical voice tips and that kind of thing. So in your work, what are the common reasons why people are holding back that, you know, as people listening might also be experiencing?
Yeah, the biggest one is, what will people think? I say, what will people think, or will people like it? It's kind of like that people pleaser type vibe, and that fear of, you know, I put myself out there. And it also comes down to your own stories. So if you've got this perception of people who are really always out there on social media being attention seekers, for example, or even being someone not like you put yourself in a category that isn't them and say, well, I'm not like that.
Oh, yeah, so
true.
true.
So you create that story where, oh, well, I'm not like that. And in some cases, it's like, I don't want to be like that. There's some big, loud creators that you're like, oh, God, I hope that's not I hope that's not me. But we got to remember, we get to be in charge of our own story. So if you are worried about what people will think, I say, aren't you more worried that they won't think? We need more thinking people. And we want people to think things about us. So it comes down to, okay, well, they're going to think negatively about us. And then we get to turn inwards, because a fear of other people judging us negatively is us judging ourselves negatively. So we get to look inside, you know, that whole pointing one finger out and three fingers back at you. And it's like, well, what am I worried about? And often it's not really anything at all. Like, one of the best things that happened to me was going viral on TikTok and then getting a whole bunch of haters. I put this video out. It was about pronunciation, a hill that I don't want to die on, which I discovered. And people were stitching this video saying I was Australia's most dangerous woman, that I was encouraging – I know, crazy, right? Encouraging people to – or not encouraging people. I was making them feel bad about their voice, which is the exact opposite of what I get up in the morning to do. I'm all about feeling great about your voice. And so, of course, with this was, hundreds of thousands of people, some positive, many negative. And so I'm crying on the couch of my therapist's office, being like, why don't people like me, And that's when she said, Sal, you got to live life in your disco ball. Keep on shining, keep on dancing, and you decide who comes to your party and who gets reflected right back on them. And the bottom line is the sky didn't fall in. My business grew, if anything, and no one in my inner circle or my clients or friends thought any differently of me. So it's like, well, why worry about what strangers on the internet say? So I say if you're worried about judgment, like go out there and post content until you get haters. It's going to be the best thing for you to up level. Like if you want to up level, get haters. If you're worried about being cancelled, go out there and get cancelled. Like go and have the things happen that you're worried about happening, and then you'll realize that they're nothing and you're able to free yourself from them.
Yeah, I love what you said once that I heard was something around people, having this fear of speaking up and then being cancelled. Like everyone is so scared of being cancelled these days. But I think you said you've actually got to be out there and be known and have people thinking about you in the first place.
Oh, yes.
I was like,
I want to be cancelled. I want to be famous enough to be cancelled. Like there's not going to be a headline tomorrow going Sally Prosser cancelled because it's not newsworthy. No one knows who I am. I shouldn't say that. I'm kind of...
Yeah.
But so it's kind of like
people know who you are.
Yes, that is true. But it wouldn't be headline news. So that's just a whole lot of opportunity to have a greater reach. It's kind of like this, it's this weird thing, and it goes back to our childhood often where we, want to speak up, but we've been told that wasn't right. Maybe we've been told to be quiet, we weren't listened to, we said something stupid and we were humiliated. So we've possibly got this narrative of, it's safer if you just pipe down.
And I think we are told. Yeah, we are told throughout our childhood by our teachers, by our parents, like, simmer down there, like constantly. So it's no wonder that we kind of have this programming of, thinking, I better not say that, or I better not talk too loud and, show up too loud. But the reality is, as a course creator, you absolutely need to in some way or other to get sales.
Yeah, to reach the people that you can help. I love this quote. It's a Tony Robbins one, I think, but he said the problem with a lot of people is they're obsessed with being who they were yesterday.
Yes, so true.
I often think about that. So, just because it was the way we did something yesterday and the day before doesn't mean we need to be like that today. That's what I said about my drinking. You can make a new choice. And so our energy flows where intention goes. So if we're thinking about the negative, it's going to bring in the negative. But if you're putting your content out there and you're thinking, wow, there are all these people who need my course, because you wouldn't have a course if there wasn't a problem you were solving, right? Like if it was just like a hobby thing that you did, like me talking into my hairbrush on TikTok, like that's kind of just like a thing I do for fun, which also works as a marketing tool, might I add.
Yeah.
But if you've got a problem that you're trying to solve, then you're wanting to reach the people whose problem you can solve. So getting the voice out there is the way to do that. And you've got to get through I don't know if I can say shit, but you've got to kind of get through the shit to get to the clear water. It's like on a beach, you've got to get through the breaks of the waves to get to the beautiful, smooth water out the back. And that's what I sort of think of as well when it comes to overcoming any challenge, including negativity online and haters.
I really like, for me, I find it helps me if I focus on serving people rather than going out there and doing videos and stuff just to get sales, because then it's a whole different energy, right?
Yeah. It's I love that. It's the energy transfer. It's not I'm doing a video. It's I'm reaching someone who needs to hear my message.
Yeah, and I think another thing that holds people back is that I have to do social media. Like you said before, that person was like, I don't like social media. But if you feel like you have to do it and you can't switch that thinking around it, then it is going to feel like a drag and you're going to not want to turn that video on.
Yeah, you don't have to do it. You get to do it. Before social media, you would have to pay really expensive television or newspaper advertising dollars, which is hard when you're a business starting out. Even before that time, like what would you do? Get the town crier to shout it down the street? It's like we're so lucky to live in this day and age where we have such amazing marketing tools that are free, and they're quite leveling as well. You can say what you want about the algorithms or anything like that, but if you've got great content, it will get to the right people. And the algorithm is our friend, because the better the algorithms get, the more likely it is to put us in front of the people who want to see us.
So as someone who has received quite a lot of haters, especially on TikTok, like sometimes I hear your stories and I'm like, wow, that's a lot to deal with. But you just it's like water off a duck's back for you.
Oh, well, after the crying with the therapist.
So you've got to process the haters and then you can move on.
I feel like I'm over it now. I'm so glad I went through it. There was a time when it would just like cut me, and I would be like, oh my God, why do they hate me? And I really struggled with it, and I worked through it, and I'm so glad I have, because it's like that. I feel like I've battled that monster, and now I can move on and it doesn't hold me back at all. And this quote really helped me as well. If you live for people's acceptance, you die by their rejection. If you live for people's acceptance, you die by their rejection. So I started to watch that, every time a positive comment came in or a like, I wouldn't feed into that dopamine hit of, oh, yes, oh, great, amazing. Because if you've got the amazing feeling, then you're going to have the equal and opposite negative feeling if it's not a nice comment. So I openly and happily receive it all. And when you've done a lot of work and personal development, I'm a bit of a personal development junkie and all of that, you start to see that so clearly, that the comments that people leave are just such a clear reflection of where they are in their life. And in some ways, in many ways, they help you, because your true fans, your real clients and friends, they'll often come in to defend you, and you'll strengthen your connection with your people by them kind of siding with you and being like, oh no, don't be mean to her, we like her, and shut up. So I find that like whenever I share content about my haters, it strengthens my connection with my community.
I think that's so important to recognize in any area of life, really. I mean, this is not a life coaching podcast, but to go through something actually will make you stronger. And the same thing is true if you do get maybe very little response when you do speak up for your business, or if you do get haters, or if, you do a launch or whatever, but your messaging's off and it doesn't really convert. Like if you're willing to be able to hold what's happening and then actually find out, like work through that process, you're always going to come out the other side in a much more strengthened place.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lou, you helped me with one of my launches, and you've seen how I've had ups and downs with launching different programs and different things working or not working. And when you can step out and say, this is a challenge that I'm invited to overcome, if you make growth one of your values, then anytime there's an obstacle, it's an opportunity to live out one of your highest values. And I sort of see it like a video game in a way. And at each level, we have the choice to sit behind the rock and just hide from the opponent or the monster or whatever it is on that level. And a lot of people do that. They say, it's too scary. I tried. I'll just hide behind the rock. But if you hide behind the rock, you never go anywhere. So every time you do come out and you face the objection, then you go up to the next level. So I'm at a stage now where I really, touch wood while I say this, but I embrace challenge, because I know that every challenge I face is an opportunity to level up.
Yeah, I'm the same actually. And that has only come from a dedication to growth, like you say.
Yeah. Like enjoying the journey. Like I think, it doesn't happen overnight. I am going okay with social media. I don't have that many followers and I post pretty consistently. And I have been for about 4.5 years. I've posted on almost every single platform every single day for 4.5 years. I really enjoy the content creating process. You have to. And I think there are some people I'm not sure if you see it with your clients or people who come into your world, but this idea of, I'm going to do one social media post and someone's going to buy my course.
Oh, yes, I've definitely had a lot of people come into my world who thinks like that.
Yeah.
It's not reality.
It's not reality, so it's just a continual building. So many people, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this, will say, I've been following you for years. Or I've been following you for a while. I just booked a speaking gig from somebody who was like, it was funny because she's like, I don't know if we want to have all of the dancing that you normally do. I'm like, oh, don't worry. I can roll back on the dancing. But she said, yeah, I've been following you on LinkedIn for about 3 years.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I find especially with the private clients, that's usually the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you are super consistent. Yeah, exactly. So you are super consistent. I feel like out of all of the people that I know in the online business world, you're probably one of the most consistent at showing up. What kind of, do you ever find that wavers, or is it just like an ingrained habit at this point?
It is a habit. So I made the decision a while ago that I would be happy to show up on camera with no makeup. And sometimes I'm not even wearing a bra or anything, And so that has helped me because I don't have any barriers. I'll show up as I am. So I don't need to be done up. I don't need to be in any particular way. I'll just make a video. I also have someone helping me with my content. So I have somebody who creates content for my podcast page, and then that gets collaborated across. So sometimes it looks like I'm putting new videos out where I'm just sharing. And I do across lots of platforms. So I'll do it, the TikTok and the Instagram and the LinkedIn and the Facebook. It'll just all be the same piece of content that's going out across all of them. And I work hard on keeping my crown chakra open. So I work hard on my creativity. So I go outside, I look into the clouds, and I, think in the shower. And then that just means there's a never-ending fountain of content coming in where I wake up and I'm like, I've got so much to say today. What do I want to say? I'm always being inspired. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point because I think, yes, people struggle with the barrier is I've got to look good and I can't be bothered putting makeup on. I think that's a big one for women. So that then it becomes like I'm just not going to do it today.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I made the decision, you know what? That's it. This is my face.
Yeah.
And I do look really dressed up sometimes as well. So people can see, different parts of me.
Yeah. Well, they see the real you and the many aspects that you cover.
Yeah. I mean, if I was filming an online course or when I'm doing a webinar or something like that, I always go to an effort. But with social media, I'm happy to put things out that aren't. And then just use a mix, So, of course, I'm a big proponent for speaking up for your business, doing video content, doing podcasting, sending voice notes instead of typing, showing up on stories every day. I love all that. However, I also use emails, which are just text. I use carousel posts. I use photos. I use a lot of other content that isn't voice. So if you've always got something handy in your camera roll that you can come out with, then that can help you be consistent as well. If I had nothing, I could just put a little story up to say, download my pep talks in your pocket.
So I love that of using those days when maybe you are feeling a little bit more creative to think of content that you can have on the back burner for days when you're not feeling so into showing up, But I also, one thing that happened in my business is I started my online business quite a long time ago in 2013, which is makes me ancient in this area. And one of the things that blew me away is when I started doing videos, I think that was about 2015-ish, and the instant connection that I had with people after that point made me realize how powerful video is because people get to see you and they hear your voice. And when they talk to you, they're they act like they already know you, even though you don't know them, which I think is testament to how powerful video is and sharing your voice, right?
Yeah. I mean, people have a really great BS radar. And online, there are a lot of, I wouldn't want to say charlatans, but, there's a lot of different content, making different claims. But when you can see someone's face and hear their voice, like the voice says so much about a person. We can hear what their airflow is like. So a voice that has more airflow like this, well, I've been a little bit sick, so it sounds a little bit nasally, but one like this is more believable than a voice like that. So if your voice is in the back of your throat and you take lots of different pauses, then that's like the voice of a lie. Which is why the voice is so beautiful, because you can hear someone's passion, you can hear their knowledge, you can hear their honesty, you can hear their certainty, So if a creator says, how this happens and we do it all the time, and this is a bit of an Australian thing where it goes up at the end of every line, over and over again, that might put a bit of a seed of uncertainty. So even though it's so great to use our voice, we've got to make sure that we're using it in a way that is putting the right kind of message across.
Yeah. I think that's a continuously improvement. Like, you should focus on that always, right? Like, I definitely feel like I listen to myself on this podcast when I'm editing it and I'm like, God, I say like a lot.
Oh my gosh, I was saying my podcast. And actually, yes. So this is really important to say. A video that has bad lighting, that has rising inflections, that has a whole lot of things that aren't perfect is better than no video at all. So remove any of those barriers to entry. I've got a fantastic lighting setup, for example, but most of my videos I just put on the windowsill. It's not perfect, but it's quick.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for me starting this podcast as well is that I've really had to leave perfectionism at the door. Like there is no room to be obsessed with a sentence that maybe you said the wrong word by mistake, or I say like too many times. I also think I say a lot, and I said like again. It's all just part of it, right? And if I was so hung up on that, I literally wouldn't be here right now interviewing you.
Yeah, and you asked about what people have as a barrier before, and I said it was they're worried about what people think. The second one would be, I say too many ums and ahs, and I can't say what I want to say. It's the concern about the fluency. And again, you're better off speaking with ums and ahs and it flowing than sounding like a robot. And also online, you can cut in the editing. Like actually videos that have those really short jump cuts are more watched, they say on TikTok anyway. So some of the videos I make, they look like they're a seamless video, but they're actually not. I record one sentence stop, one sentence stop, one sentence stop, so you don't really have to have a whole lot of information in your mind to go for it. And even in podcasting, I know with this one, same with mine, if you really need to have to stop and say something again, it's no problem. There is so much magic in editing.
Yeah, 100%. I actually really like that about, doing the face-to-camera reels, how you just do a sentence at a time, because there's no way that I'd remember what to say anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I also find breath as well. Sometimes when you're talking too fast and trying to get it all out, your breath gets, you kind of lose breath. So it's taking that moment to chill and then go again.
Yeah, think on the in-breath, speak on the out-breath.
Oh, I love that.
And it's the same thing with making videos for content. So I'll have the camera framed quite wide and I'll just keep going and I'll stop and start. But then when in the edit, you can just tighten the frame. So you don't need to press stop and start 100 times. You can just keep going. And then in the editing, it depends what system you're using, but you can just make it tighter. And so it looks like it's meant to be like that. And it's actually more interesting than just having the same frame the whole time.
Yeah. Good tip. So I'm interested to know, how have you found TikTok as a course creator? Because for those listening, if you don't know, how many followers do you have on there? Quite a lot, right?
Yeah, it's on the decline though. So it's weird. So I'm about let's have a look. It's 300 and something thousand. It has been slowly going down and I don't know the reason for that. Partly it's the finding the right audience. So it's at 344,000 now. It was up to 350,000 at one point. And more followers isn't always better. That's what I've learned. So when I first started doing TikTok, I did quite a few grammar videos. This is the difference between effect and affect. And it was kind of fun. But then a lot of people thought I was an English teacher. And I'm not. I'm voice and presentation and confidence. And so they'd be asking me these complex grammatical questions. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to have to Google that one. Like, it's just not what I do. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to have to change the content to really show people. And even my newsreader comedy for a while, people just knew me for that. And I was like, oh, I got a lot of followers from that. But are they people who are going to be buying in my business? So even though my followers are less and my views are down, I found my conversions have been up because I'm talking to the people I want to work with about voice and presentation. And TikTok, the best thing about it, I mean, timing was a big thing for me. I joined in December 2019. So it was perfect timing. And my first video went viral on the 27th of February, 2020. So right before COVID. And it was the first time I really used a lot of video because you can't use anything else on TikTok. So up until then, I'd be doing a lot of just posts on LinkedIn and Instagram, like stills. Whereas on TikTok, you had to do video. And that's when I discovered, like you said, that power of video. Once people see you on video, you start to create traction that you can't get any other way.
Yeah, it's so true, right? It just cuts through.
Yeah,
more so
sure.
than like written word. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks, Sally, for coming on today. I feel like we have talked about so many good things. And, you know, if a course creator is listening who's been a little bit too scared to put themselves online, I think your overall message is to just get out there and do it anyway, right?
Yeah. Baby steps. Back yourself. Do it. Thinking about, you know, your voice is just this channel to share what you know and love. So if your course is as good as you think it is, because that's what a big part of it as well is. I had to work through this as well. You need to have a course that you absolutely want to shout from the rooftops because it's that good.
Yeah, I did an episode on that a few weeks ago, actually.
Yeah, for sure. You've got to love it, and then you can spread the word and download my pep talks in your pocket. So I've got these 5 audio tracks which take you through a voice warm-up, a bit of a pep talk, a breathing exercise, a speech warm-up, and you can download them just like a podcast. And if you are feeling a little bit shaky before you film a video for social media or a webinar or anything like that, then you can just tune in and get a little, they're only about 3.5 minutes each. So you can get a little dose of motivation before you start.
Oh, I love that. I think, yeah, it's so important to just have that courageous moment almost, and then just do it. And then as you do it over time, you'll build that confidence to keep showing up.
100%.
Yeah. So where can people find you if they want to check out what you do, maybe look at your courses, and also download those pep talks in your pocket?
Yeah, so I would love to hear from you. Instagram's probably the best place for me. So I'm at Sally Prosser Voice. Also TikTok at Sally Prosser Voice. I'm just not as good there on the DMs. So I'm better on the DMs on Instagram. And also LinkedIn. They're the three blessed places. There you go. That's a good reframe for social media. It's the blessed places. And my website is sallyprosser.com.au. Don't forget the AU.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for coming on today, Sally. And I hope for those of you listening, you've taken away quite a few points from this podcast today, and you're ready to take action and get out there and use your voice. Thanks, course creators and go-getters. You're incredible, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. If you'd like to find out more about what I offer, head across to loublakely.com. See you next time.